Donald Trump tantrumed and unleashed authoritarian insanity during a speech to the Department of Justice, during which he has started to now say straight up that any media outlet adversarial to him is illegal. This is a red alert, dangerous situation. Trump taking one step closer to going after us by starting to name some of the guests on our show and some of the allies to our show, which we are going to talk about and explore. Here is Trump speaking. The visual contrast, the irony could not be more jarring. Trump speaking at the Department of Justice, an entity that in some abstract sense is meant to carry forward the process of justice. Trump, with his words, saying that justice should be circumvented and that media outlets adversarial to him are committing crimes. Listen to this. Listen and weep, my friends.
And I believe that CNN and MSDNC, who literally write 97.6% bad about me, are political arms of the Democrat Party. And in my opinion, they're really corrupt and they're illegal. What they do is illegal.
Illegal. Illegal. Media outlets that report critically about a president are illegal, according to the president. What other countries does that remind me of? It's ugly stuff, folks. And, you know, there's this idea of what if Trump designates these media outlets terrorist organizations as a pretext to start arresting journalists? I wish I was kidding. He hasn't signaled yet that he plans to do that, but it would not come as the biggest shock if he started threatening to do exactly that. Trump also at the DOJ starting to name names. Listen to this.
There's a guy named Norm Eisen. I don't even know what he looks like. His name is Norm Eisen of Crew. He's been after me for 9 years. Now, Crew is a charitable organization. And the reason I'm saying this, Todd, is I'm only going to get one chance to say this. But these are bad people. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he looks like. But everything I read is Norm Eisen of Crew. And Crew is a charitable organization. And that's a political thing. His sole life is to get Donald Trump. And he's been vicious and violent. And he's trying, and he probably had pretty good success over the years. But with me, how did he do? I think I'm president. Am I here because I'm president? But we had to take all of that abuse. Even during the trials, we had to take tremendous abuse. Like, you know, these wonderful guys, they're not legitimate people. They're horrible people.
And Trump even name-checking Mark Elias, who has been a guest on this program, is a big booster of this show, one step closer every week until we end up in the crosshairs. Listen to this.
United States, with the help of radicals like Mark Elias, Mark Pomerantz, and these are people that nobody's ever seen anything like it. So many others, but these are people that are bad people, really bad people. They tried to turn America into a corrupt, communist, and third world country. But
big accusation, by the way. Mark Elias turned the country communist, or tried.
In the end, the thugs failed and the truth won. Freedom won, justice won, democracy won, and above all, the American people won. There could be no more heinous betrayal of American values than to use the law to terrorize the innocent and reward the wicked.
And what is Trump doing right now? What is Trump doing right now? Another instance of projection. But we shouldn't for a moment think that Trump won't carry out every single thing he's threatening to do and alluding to in this deranged and terrifying speech, as has become sort of a staple of these events. Trump targeting traditionally left-leaning cities and using lurid anecdotes to talk about just how disastrous it all is.
Killer people, and they allowed them in by the millions. In major cities like New York, Chicago, and Washington, mothers can't walk their children to the park without fear of being shot or killed or raped or anything. Women can't ride the subway without worrying that a hoodlum will shove them onto the train tracks. in New York. It's happened twice in the last couple of weeks. They're standing there, a perfect Wall Street gentleman in one case, and another person who was a worker, good worker, electrician, gets pushed into a train going 45 miles an hour just prior to the train, not stopping, going to go through that. So I know the stations very well. I used to take the subway. I used to feel safe. When I was young, I'd go to, my parents would drop me off at the subway. I'd take the subway to my school. Could you?
So listen, we've heard a lot of this before. There is no question that if there is any crime, we should be dealing with it. And one of the failures of Democrats in the 2024 election was to seem not to care about crime that exists. But the truth is that crime rates have been declining in the United States for a long time. There was no big burst of crime under Joe Biden. And that as a general principle, we see very high rates of crime in red cities. You look at Oklahoma City compared to New York City, the crime rates are higher in Oklahoma City. Of course, New York has way more people, so the number of crimes is greater in New York City. If you look at Oklahoma as a state rather than New York as a state, you see the same thing. And so on the one hand, of course, to the extent that crime exists, and of course, in order to really deal with crime, you've got to deal with poverty. You've got to deal with inequality. You have to deal with infrastructure, things that these Republicans don't seem to want to deal with. We should acknowledge where there is crime, we have work to do. But this lurid framing of the dangerous blue cities where everything's a disaster, very much incorrect, but very salient to many voters in this country. Trump also weighed in, of course, authoritarian fashion when it comes to drug overdoses, saying death penalty. That's the way to do it.
Some of those businesses, those cartels are run better than any business in America. They say they're run incredibly, not just here, they all over the world. They're run like a major business, but in many cases better. And I said, we got it 18% down. Well, 18% is incredible. It's like a record, but when you think of it, it's not very much. And the way you get it down, if you want to get it down to close to 100%, is with the death penalty. But I think maybe America is not ready for that. China has the death penalty. Singapore has the death penalty. Various places have the death penalty. Wherever you have the death penalty, you don't have drugs. But
so think of the sum total of this speech. Media outlets critically reporting about me, those are illegal. The way we should deal with drugs, like authoritarian countries, China and Singapore, death penalty. This is an authoritarian nightmare. Trump continued with what Democrats do is illegal.
And these newspapers are really no different than a highly paid political operative. And it has to stop. It has to be illegal. It's influencing judges, and it's really changing law, and it just cannot be legal. I don't believe it's legal. And they do it in total coordination with each other. And everything we do, we're restoring law, restoring order, and restoring public safety in America. That's
criminalizing real journalism. Remember, if it's not critical, it's just PR. I think Orwell said some version of that. When you criticize journalism, or criminalize rather journalism that doesn't flatter the leader, that is authoritarianism. And then, of course, a contrast visually, a contrast in optics, even though this was a dystopian authoritarian speech, Trump's still doing the dance. And for whatever reason, the music typically out of phase at Trump's events, something that we've seen. Terrifying. And we now do have to talk about the reality that the Trump Vengeance Tour gets one step closer to progressive independent media like us. The weather's warming up. It's just about time to start enjoying the outdoors again if you live in a place that has seasons. And it's time for the upgrade you've been thinking of. Our sponsor, Fast Growing Trees, has you covered. It's America's biggest online nursery with thousands of different plants and 2 million happy customers. Fast Growing Trees has all the plants your yard needs, from fruit trees to privacy trees, flowering trees, and shrubs. They make it easy to find whatever fits your climate and your space. Everything's delivered directly to your door in just a few days. You'll get support from trained plant experts on call to help you plan your landscape, choose the right plants, and care for them. I have some beautiful white hydrangeas on the way from Fast Growing Trees right now. They are going to look great. Really looking forward to having them. And right now, they have some amazing deals at fastgrowingtrees.com, including up to half off. And my audience gets an additional 15% off when you use the code PACMAN. The link is in the description.